The ballroom of the Orion Hotel shimmered like a jewel box turned inside out. Crystal chandeliers hung low, scattering warm light across polished marble floors. The air carried the soft clink of champagne flutes, the rustle of designer gowns, and the low hum of powerful conversations. Deals whispered, alliances formed, fortunes quietly shifted between smiles. At the center of it all stood Victor Halden, the billionaire whose name alone could open doors or close them forever. Victor raised his glass, and the room obeyed instinctively. Silence fell, thick and reverent. Cameras lifted, phones hovered. Tonight was another triumph, another charity gala that would make headlines by morning. He smiled, that practiced smile of a man used to winning, and began to speak about legacy, responsibility, and giving back. Then something changed. His words slowed, stretching awkwardly between breaths. The color drained from his face. A faint tremor ran through his hand, unnoticed at first, until the champagne sloshed dangerously close to the rim of the glass. A woman in the front row frowned. Someone laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. Victor took a step forward. His knee buckled. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering loudly as his body followed it to the floor. The sound echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. Gasps exploded from every direction. A few guests stood abruptly. Others froze, mouths open, eyes wide with disbelief. This wasn't part of the evening's spectacle. This wasn't supposed to happen. Security guards exchanged uncertain looks, hands hovering near their earpieces. No one wanted to be the first to move. Fear, protocol, and shock tangled them in place. Near the back of the room, Lena, the youngest waitress on staff, felt her tray go suddenly weightless in her hands. Her breath caught. The glittering scene blurred, replaced by a familiar dread tightening her chest. She had seen this collapse before. Not here, not among diamonds and silk, but the signs were the same. As murmurs swelled and panic crept into the room, Lena's fingers loosened. The tray clattered softly to the floor behind her. While the crowd hesitated, she took a step forward. Then another. And then she ran. Lena dropped to her knees beside Victor, the marble floor cold even through the thin fabric of her uniform. Up close, the power and polish that surrounded him dissolved into something fragile and frighteningly human. His eyes were half open but unfocused, his lips tinged with blue. Around them, the crowd pressed closer, forming a glittering circle of fear and confusion. "Is he breathing?" someone whispered. Lena didn't answer. She placed 2 fingers against Victor's neck, counting silently. 1 beat. Then nothing. Her stomach tightened, but her hands didn't hesitate. She tilted his head back, checking his airway, just as she had been trained years ago. His chest barely moved. "Someone call an ambulance," a man shouted, his voice cracking. "I already did," another voice answered, too loudly, too late. Lena loosened Victor's tie, unbuttoned his collar, and positioned her hands at the center of his chest. For a brief moment, doubt flickered in her mind, not about what to do, but about whether anyone would stop her. She could feel their eyes on her, heavy with judgment. A woman in pearls hissed, "What does she think she's doing?" "She's a waitress," another guest muttered. "Get a doctor." Lena blocked them out. She locked her elbows and began compressions, hard, steady, relentless. 1, 2, 3. The rhythm grounded her, drowning out the panic and the music that still played faintly in the background, absurdly cheerful. Sweat beaded at her temples as she counted under her breath. "Move back," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her chest. "He needs air." She pinched Victor's nose and breathed for him, watching for his chest to rise. It barely did. Fear clawed at her, but she pushed it down and continued. Around her, some guests turned away, unable to watch. Others stared, transfixed, as if witnessing something both improper and miraculous. A security guard stepped forward uncertainly. "Miss, maybe you should." "He's in cardiac arrest," Lena snapped, not looking up. "If you interrupt me, he dies." The authority in her voice stunned him into silence. Seconds dragged on, each one heavy with the possibility of failure. Lena's arms burned, her breath came fast, but she did not stop. In that moment, there was no Gala, no billionaire, no waitress. There was only a life, and her hands fighting to keep it. Lena was on her 4th cycle of compressions when the room seemed to lean in closer, as if the chandeliers themselves were holding their breath. Her arms ached, trembling with exhaustion, but she kept the rhythm steady, counting, breathing, refusing to let panic take control. The polished guests who moments ago had spoken of stocks and art now stood silent, their faces pale, their confidence stripped away. A security supervisor finally pushed through the crowd, radio crackling at his shoulder. "Paramedics are 2 minutes out," he announced. "Good," Lena said without looking up. "Then don't touch him." The firmness in her voice surprised even her. It echoed across the marble floor, slicing through doubt and hesitation. The guard nodded and stepped back, waving others away. For the first time since Victor had fallen, space opened around them. Lena leaned down and checked Victor's pulse again. Nothing. Her chest tightened. She forced herself not to stop. 1, 2, 3, her hands pressed down with controlled force. She breathed for him once more, her forehead almost touching his. "Come on," she whispered, words meant only for him. "Stay with me." A man in a tailored tuxedo shook his head. "This is pointless," he murmured. "He's gone." As if in defiance, Victor's body jerked. It was subtle, a twitch at first, then a sudden cough that tore through the silence. A ragged gasp followed, loud and desperate. Lena froze for half a second, then felt it. A pulse, weak but unmistakable, beating beneath her fingers. "He's breathing," someone cried. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. A woman covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. The music finally stopped, leaving only the sound of Victor's uneven breaths and Lena's own racing heart. She rolled him gently onto his side, keeping his airway clear, murmuring reassurance as though he could hear her. "You're okay," she said, voice shaking now that the worst had passed. "You're okay." The paramedics rushed in moments later, equipment in hand. They knelt beside Victor, quickly assessing him, exchanging looks of disbelief. "Who performed CPR?" one of them asked, glancing up. The room fell quiet again. Lena slowly stood, her knees unsteady, her hands still trembling. All eyes turned to her, not with doubt this time, but awe. "I did," she said softly. And in that instant, the fate of everyone in that ballroom shifted. The hospital room was quiet in a way the Gala never had been. Soft monitors beeped steadily beside Victor Halden's bed, each sound a reminder that his heart was still working, still fighting. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, washing the sterile white walls in a pale gold that felt almost forgiving. Victor turned his head as the door opened. Lena stepped inside hesitantly, her waitress uniform neatly pressed, hands clasped in front of her as if she were afraid to touch anything. For the first time since the Gala, their eyes met without panic between them. "You're the one," Victor said, his voice hoarse but warm. "The woman who didn't let me die." Lena swallowed. "I just did what I had to do." He studied her for a moment, then smiled faintly. "That's what heroes always say." She told him the truth then, how she had once studied medicine, how life had forced her to leave before she could finish. Sick parents, bills that didn't wait, dreams quietly folded away. Victor listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from gratitude to something deeper, understanding. "No one at that Gala knew who you really were," he said finally. "Including me." A week later, the city buzzed with the story. Headlines praised the waitress who saved a billionaire, but Victor made sure her name was known. Scholarships were funded. Doors reopened. Lena returned to medical school, this time without fear of choosing between survival and purpose. Months later, another Gala filled the same ballroom. Victor stood once more beneath the chandeliers, stronger now, alive because someone brave had acted when others froze. He didn't speak long. Instead, he gestured toward the front row, where Lena sat in a simple dress, no tray in her hands this time. "True greatness," Victor said, his voice steady, "is not measured by wealth or status, but by the courage to step forward when it matters most." The room rose in applause. Lena smiled through tears, knowing that one unexpected moment had rewritten 2 lives forever.